Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com. Welcome back, Real Estate 360. This is your host, Ryan Sloper, joined today by my guest, Louis Cammarosano, the general manager of HomeGain. Quick reminder, Real Estate 360 is designed to build Washington, D.C. Metro's housing or credit markets one house at a time. If you ever have any questions, whether it's real estate, finance, credit-related, anything, please reach out to me at the off-air number. It's 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Or via the web at realestate360live.com. That's realestate360live.com. I want to jump into this week's Credit Fix segment where we dispel the myth that your creditors are automatically and accurately updating your credit report every month. I want to kind of give you guys a case study of one of the clients that I actually had over the past month. It was actually only about 2 collections on his actual credit report that were hindering him from being able to obtain a home loan and purchase a home. And one of them was a collection from I want to say it was the District of Columbia. I believe it was a parking collection for like $50, and the other one was just a collection from like 7 or 8 years ago from a cell phone company. But the interesting part about those is both of those collections were paid. He had paid them, and the collection companies had continued to report these things negatively. And he was like, well, why do I keep having these things pop up on my credit report even after I've paid for them? Well, my first question to him was, okay, well, when you paid them, did you make sure that you had in writing a letter that said that these things were paid in full and satisfied, have the account number, reference to the credit report, and so that way you could go back and make sure that this was done? Well, lo and behold, this was not done. So, Louis, guess what had to happen in order to get that done? He wanted to expedite the process, so he actually had he called them up and they were like, "Oh, well, we don't have any record that you've actually paid those things." So, his 2 options were to go ahead, hire my credit guy Rondi to just go ahead and get any inaccurate, erroneous information off his credit report, which would probably take about 30 to 45 days, or he could choose to expedite that by actually paying for them again and getting this time a letter that says that this is payment in full and will be deleted off the credit report. So he chose to go that route because it was, I want to say probably like $100 total, but that had affected his credit score by, I want to say it was 75 points, those 2 collections. So instead of, around a 640 score, getting those things deleted and getting the credit score updated, we can do what's called an expedited rescore, which can happen in 24 to 48 hours once we get that information removed off the credit report. Was able to get him up to a 720. So,
Ryan, once the credit that is the bad payment record is removed from the credit report, does the credit report automatically, or does the credit agencies automatically upgrade your credit? That's a different question than you paid, but then the company doesn't notify the credit. But once they notify the credit bureau of your payment, does your credit score change, or does it take some time for that to run through the system?
It does take some time to run it through the system, and see, in this case, like when you're dealing with a real estate transaction, Louis, and you're working with a loan officer that's trying to expedite a mortgage, like right now, if you get that, you can actually the mortgage person can work hand in hand with whoever the credit service is. So let's just make one up. Let's just say it's Universal Credit. So Universal Credit deals with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, right? So that credit was already pulled through Universal. So what will happen is you get those letters showing that the thing is paid. You can actually do an expedited rescore with Universal. Well, they'll contact each of the 3 bureaus for you within 24 to 48 hours and get those things removed off immediately and then get it rescored. Now, that is most of the time good for Universal because they're the ones that actually did that. But if like somebody else through another third-party credit service provider pulls it, it might still show up, right? So
what if it's in a collection agency from the original credit?
Yeah, if it's a collection agency, You're going to have to wait. Most of the time, you're going to have to wait until that collection agency sends out the letter to the 3 bureaus, and that can be a lagging thing. It could be, it could be a couple weeks, it could be a couple months. And really what I find is that's why I always tell people it's so critically important that you have the documentation. You don't pay them until they provide that letter that says, when you make this payment in full, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? A lot of people just say, well, I called them up and I paid it. You guys can call and verify that. And I said, no, that's not good enough. You want the letter that specifies that once this is paid in full, that they will delete the item off their credit report, within the next 5 business days, whatever it may be, however long it's going to take them. And if you have the letter and for some reason they don't do what they say they're going to do, you have recourse to go back and get that off. I always tell people that that's why it's important that you're constantly checking your credit, probably every 6 months, because otherwise there's these little parking tickets that appear out of nowhere. And especially in the DC area, they've got the traffic cameras that are taking pictures of your car. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I never got that ticket. And the next thing you know, you got a collection company putting a parking or a traffic ticket on your credit that you didn't even know about. I mean, that's happened. I've seen that at least 4 or 5 different times.
And do they have a significant impact, a small traffic ticket violation?
Yeah, but just because a little collection on your, it can ding you up to 40 points or so. And I mean, it's a little. You think it's a little minor thing, but and when you're trying to apply for a mortgage and you're trying to get the best interest rate possible, yeah, that can be the difference in probably another eighth or a quarter of the interest rate. So those minor tickets end up adding up to be substantial charges when you're looking at, what the finance charges over the life of a 30-year fixed mortgage might be.
Indeed.
So these little tickets, I always tell people, take care of them, and if they're not yours, if you think that it's really not your ticket, you need to hire a professional. Hire Rondi. I'll put you in touch with him. Let him fight to get the erroneous, inaccurate information deleted permanently off your credit report. You could try to do it yourself, and he'll explain that to you. But I always just advise, you're not paying him unless he's successful deleting it anyway, so you might as well let the professional do the work. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. The last topic, while we're trying to wrap up the show, Louis, you had sent me an interesting article and was on gold, and we like to touch on this from time to time. Basically, that it was Gold Report, Warren Buffett's bursting bubble, and it was giving some good insights as to how Warren Buffett is supposed to be the great stock business guru, and he's so against buying gold. And I thought it was interesting because within the article, it said that even though he's made mention that the value of the dollar has fallen 86% since he took over Berkshire Hathaway in 1965, and he said in his latest shareholder letter that investors are right to be fearful of paper money, he continues to harp against buying gold. It's almost comical, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think he got in bed with the government in 2008 when his entire report, he even admitted that if his Thanksgiving dinner in 2008 would have been McDonald's and not a regular feast if he had not gotten bailed out.
Right.
I believe that, governments have a vested interest in keeping the price of gold down and making people unaware of gold as an alternative currency because it undermines their entire fiat currency system.
Yep.
So I think that Warren Buffett is probably, touting. He's become very vehemently anti-gold since 2008. Before that, he was actually an investor in silver in early 2002.
Right.
So it seems to me that he's gone over, and he also seems to be the official spokesman for Obama's tax policy. So I think he realizes now that his net worth is tied to making sure that he plays nice with the government because he'll never know when he might need another bailout.
Yeah, because I think it said in there that one of the prerequisites when he was going to invest in Goldman Sachs was that he wanted the government to guarantee that they were going to be there to backstop them.
Yeah, you made the point earlier that most successful businesses and investors don't get there by government help, but once they become successful,
yep,
they get large enough to ask for favors, and then also they become large enough that the government asks favors of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about what you can do for them. And it's just interesting because, I think that this ties in so well because a lot of and that's why the government can keep up with this whole smoke and mirrors thing that, there's really not all this inflation because, look, gold prices are actually going down, and people aren't buying gold. I mean, to me, gold is tremendously undervalued right now. Wouldn't you agree, Lewis?
I agree, and also just look at the last 10 years. If you just bought gold and put it in a vault, you'd have done better than Berkshire Hathaway or the Dow Jones or anything. So I think you are better off with having some exposure. I mean, Warren Buffett makes it sound like you shouldn't have any
I know.
exposure to gold, that somehow that's a ridiculous thing to buy.
Yeah, and especially when he's noting of how much the value of the dollar is declined.
Well, his alternative is, in order to, combat that, is you buy equities.
Right.
And we've talked about that. Not everyone has the wherewithal to do so, or even the desire to do so. Some people just want to save their money and store their wealth.
Yep.
The dollar is not the place to do that.
Yeah, and I
You
mean,
may argue that over time, if you put money in the equities market, you'll be okay. But in the last 10 years, you were flat, which means that you lost against inflation.
and all in all, I mean, buying.
Unless you were a great stock picker and you managed to beat the index.
Right. Exactly. I mean, in his situation, when he's got the government there to backstop most of his investments, he's in a win-win situation, as most people are not going to have that luxury. It's interesting. I mean, buying gold and silver, is a definite smart play against future inflation. And like I said, I mean, I feel that these inflationary pressures are only going to rise over time. Cost of goods and services is going to continue to go up. Don't think that's don't look at that CPI number and just think that inflation's staying relatively calm, because it's not. Now, these are just my opinions. Don't feel like you have to go out buy gold and silver just because I said so. But ultimately, mortgage bonds and don't like inflation, so interest rates will rise. I mean, you can protect yourself by buying gold and silver. Coming up on the end of the show, Lewis, I want to thank you for coming on again. Can you let our listeners know where they should go if they're looking to start their search for a home?
Sure. You can go to homegain.com, and you can select Realtors anonymously by using our Find a Realtor program. You can get the value of your home checked out by just typing in your home address on the home page. And you can search for homes for sale, and you can also check out our home ownership satisfaction survey, our home value survey, and our FSBO versus Realtor survey. It's a good place to start your search and to continue your real estate and gaining of real estate knowledge at homegain.com.
Awesome, Lewis. Thank you, and have a great week.
Thanks, Ryan. You too.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to Real Estate 360 Live. Remember to tune in again next week from 2 to 3 p.m. If you have any questions, the off-air number is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Or you can go to my website at realestate360live.com. That's realestate360live.com. Got a lot of cool stuff, free books on there. And you can listen to previous shows as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back again next week. Have a great week.